What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to talk about why people in the STEM fields really don't need financial advisors. So let me start by saying this is not a dig at financial advisors. My brother is a financial advisor and he's a good one. But if you are scientifically minded, if you like analysis, you like graphs and numbers, and there just seems to be a really high barrier to entry into the financial realm because of all the mumbo jumbo that you'll hear when they talk, I'm going to try to clarify that a little bit and hopefully give you the confidence to maybe start doing some things on your own. So my first advice would be don't worry too much about all of the terms and try to start small. If you're in the STEM fields, check and see if you have a 401k retirement plan through your work. For some government employees, this may be a 457 plan instead, but those numbers right away make it sound complicated. It is just a tax advantage retirement plan. That's all 401k is. And if you do have one at your work, find out how to log into it. I have had friends at work that we've worked together 3 to 5 years, and they have no idea how much is in their 401k, what they're contributing monthly to it, or what they're even invested in inside of their 401k. This is very important to note. Having a 401k and contributing money to it is different than it being invested. A 401k in and of itself is just a place to hold on to money. You have to choose funds and locations for that money to be invested before it's doing anything in the market. So start through your employer channels, find out if you have a 401k. If you do, it may be that your employer put you in a target date fund, which means if you started and your estimated date of retirement was 2045, there may be a mutual fund that has a whole bunch of funds and is being managed by a firm your company is partnered with to sort of target 2045, and thus it'll start pretty aggressively because you have a lot of time before then. But as that date nears, it'll shift you more into bonds, further out of stocks. That's very common, and that's really not a bad thing. If you do have that kind of plan and you don't feel that you have the confidence to do something a little more risky or a little bit more active, then you can stay in that kind of fund. Just make sure you're invested. Second thing, if you do have a 401k, if you have logged in, if you have done some analysis of the funds that are available to you through that portal, you may want to choose to just take a portion of the money and put it towards a fund that you like that you're not currently invested in. All 401k plans should be able to do partial distributions. So you could leave 90% of your money in that target date fund and use the other 10% to play around with. And then you'll be able to compare how much, knowing that when you started that process, that was 10% of your portfolio. You can come back 6 months in and compare that 10% to the original 90% and see which portion has grown faster. If you're doing better than the target date fund, you may want to consider an active approach to all of your money. Secondly, if you're familiar with the 401k process, if you like managing it, or you want to leave it alone as your safety net, but you are interested in getting involved in investing beyond that, the next kind of funds I would recommend looking into, still in the very safe tax-deferred retirement class, are IRAs, Roth IRAs, and HSAs, and I'll talk about each of those briefly. So a traditional IRA is essentially a 401k. It's a tax-deferred retirement account, but the nice thing about an IRA is it's independent. That's what the I stands for. It's independent retirement account. And that means that if you go through a company like Vanguard or Fidelity or Bank of America Merrill Lynch, you get to choose from way more accounts than you would get just through your 401k provider. Typically, a 401k account has 15 to 20 total funds that you get to choose from. Fidelity has hundreds. Vanguard has hundreds. So, and these accounts are free to start. There are no account minimums. You could put $50 in if you wanted to, buy a partial share of a semiconductors mutual fund, check back in on it in a year. And it could be up 15%, it could be down a little bit. That's the most important thing to know, that past indication of market performance is no promise of the future. Anyone at any bank is going to tell you that, and I'm going to tell you the same thing. But There's no account minimums to start, and you can get invested and start learning the process, using the tools, doing your own analysis as soon as possible. So a traditional IRA operates just like a traditional 401k, where you can put in money pre-tax, and then you can write that off of your year-end taxable income. But at the time you want to withdraw that money in retirement, you pay income tax on it then as regular earned income tax. When you hear the term Roth, which is a very common term thrown around in retirement circles, understand all Roth means is you pay income tax on it before you invest that money. So if you got a paycheck and you wanted 10% of it to go into a traditional 401k and 10% into a Roth 401k, and you made $1,000, $100 goes in your traditional 401k, but the $1,000, you subtract the $100 that goes into a traditional 401k, that remaining $900 you pay income tax on. So let's say 10% income tax for easy math. Now you're actually down to $810 because you just paid $90 of income tax. So if you're putting 10% of that pay into a 401k, you're putting $81 in. But at the time of retirement, if that $100 in your traditional 401k has grown to $1,000 and you want to pull it out, you pay tax on $1,000. If that $81 has grown to $810, you don't pay a dime of tax on that. So depending on the tax bracket that you're in at time of retirement versus the tax bracket you're in at time of investment, it may be that a Roth actually ends up saving you money. Typically, if both are available to you through your workplace, splitting your contributions between the two isn't a bad idea. If you're at a company that has a good match, you may also want to contribute your money to a Roth 401k because the match through your employer is always going to go into a traditional 401k, and having both is going to give you the most flexibility in retirement. The next account I want to talk about is an HSA, a health savings account, and it may be the most incredible tax advantaged account. The very important thing I want to note up front is that money in an HSA can only be spent on health care expenses in retirement. If you need to spend that money on anything other than healthcare expenses, you lose one of the big tax perks I'm about to talk about. But it's important to note it just acts like a traditional IRA from that point on. So people will talk about HSAs being triple tax deferred. This means you get to put pre-tax income in like you would with a traditional 401k or Roth IRA. And then the money grows interest-free, tax-free, where whatever you have at the time you need to pull it out, you don't pay tax on any of the growth. And if you're spending that money on healthcare expenses, which you may not think it's that high of a number, but think of yourself in retirement, post-working, you no longer have health insurance through your work. Healthcare is the number one expense for most retirees in the United States. And so having a huge pot of tax-free money that you can spend out of in retirement is a huge deal. Additionally, most employers who offer an HSA will also contribute a portion to your HSA for selecting that plan. So you can contribute pre-tax money, it grows tax-free, and as long as you spend money on healthcare expenses in retirement, it's tax-free when you take it out. So that's the triple tax advantage. If you end up having $1 million in an HSA and you just don't need it, and that's a huge piece of your retirement, you just pay income tax on it, whatever you spend that isn't on healthcare expenses, just like you would with a traditional IRA. So it's still a great account. It's a great idea to max out your HSA and a Roth IRA even before maxing out your 401ks typically. A Roth IRA has such good tax savings and advantages that the government has put overall income caps on it, so you can't contribute if you make above like $200,000 as a couple, $150,000 as an individual. I'm not sure on the exact limits. They change most years, but they put income contribution limits, and they also limit how much you can put in each year to just about $6,500 at the time of 2022. So they don't want you able to put that much money in and not pay taxes on it. They're worried that they're going to have a bunch of millionaires retiring and they don't get to tax you on a dime of your money. So if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, you're not familiar with investing, but you think you might qualify for a Roth IRA, start looking into that. Follow up by looking into an HSA. Make sure if you do have an employer match 401k plan, you always put enough in your 401k to get the maximum employer match. So if you put in 6% and they match 3%, put in 6%. But if you have a company that'll match 100%, as long as you put in 7%, they'll give you another 7%, put 7% in. That is basically salary money that you are just saving for the future. If you opt not to get your maximum employer contribution into your 401k, you are effectively opting for a lower salary. Okay, so make sure you get your maximum employer match through your 401k. Look into Roth IRAs, look into the HSA plans, and if you're really passionate about investing at that point, that is the time to start looking into things like general brokerage accounts, where you essentially just buy and trade and sell stocks. You can trade options on stocks, but at this point, you are actually doing what most people think of as like day trading stock investing. As a STEM field major, you probably don't have that kind of time. You're probably working a very busy full-time job, and you don't want the hassle of day trading. The beautiful thing is, everything I talked about up to the point of brokerage accounts are set it and forget it type accounts. You do 1 or 2 analysis periods per year. You choose funds, you determine how much you want to contribute to those different funds, and then you set that much to automatically deduct every month out of your pay, automatically invest into the funds you've chosen. And then you get the advantage of what's called dollar cost averaging. This means you don't have to try to time the market. If you're worried about missing a high point and entering, right before a dip happens, dollar cost averaging is essentially the concept of spreading your investments out over a period of time rather than lump sum investment. So yes, you'll hit some of the low points, but you'll also hit all of the high points. It's a really safe, a really steady plan. And for people who are interested in low risk investments for the long term, this is the way to go about it. You don't have to worry about crazy day trading, anything like that. Now, a quick disclaimer. If you have large assets, if you have a complicated situation with multiple revenue streams, if you're just too busy to do even these basic steps that I've talked about, there is nothing wrong with engaging with a financial advisor. As I said, my brother's a financial advisor. The guy's brilliant. These people can be super helpful. They're not just trying to take advantage of you. But if you are a STEM major, if you are scientifically minded, if you like science, analysis, numbers, looking at charts and tables, you really can handle your own finances. And I hope this video helped you take the first step towards feeling knowledgeable and empowered to do so. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Typically, I do software tutorials on this channel, but I'm willing to add tons more content like this if there's an interest. So just let me know if you found this useful and if you'd like to see more stuff like this or what you'd like to see in the future on the channel. As always, thanks for watching and good luck with everything. Thanks. Bye.